freaky friends. This is Margaret.
And this is Colleen.
And we're the Cousins Weird.
Hi.
And we're virtual because we're busy as shit, and I overdid it this week, and my ankle is a gigantic sausage, and it's disgusting.
Margaret's got a sausage ankle.
Yeah. Or like one of those gigantic balloons that you make the animals from. Except my foot's little and my ankle's wider than my foot.
Yeah. It's not natural looking.
No. It's not pleasant to have it attached to your body either, because
she's got a cankle, but it's not natural.
Right. It's like the cankle from hell. Like it's just like, oh, you. Jackson wouldn't even look at it. He's like, I don't want to look at that, Mom.
That sounds like Griffin. That's how Griffins can't handle stuff. So
during my rehabilitation, I've been hanging out in our bedroom upstairs because it has a recliner chair in it. This is a remnant from my buddy Rick lived with us for a little while when we had just one child. He rented a room from us, and this was his chair he had in there. And when he moved to Indiana, and he's like, I don't want to take that with me, you guys could just have it. So we moved it. We were pregnant with Evie at the time, so it got moved into the bedroom and it became the nursing chair. So it's like a lazy boy, it's reclining, it has nice wide arms, It's not new, but it's really comfy. And I went from nursing one kid to basically nursing another kid because they're so close in age. Right. And it's here. This is his home. It's in my room. So I've been hanging out in this chair, and my husband, the amazing man that he is, especially like when I first came home and I was getting around, but going up and down the stairs is like not the easiest thing to do. He brought a little TV tray up and he put it in the hallway, and he put like a little coffee stand for me. So in the morning, if I was here by myself, I could make coffee for myself, which was really nice. So it was like a little K-cup brewer with shitty K-cups. It's like crap. But K-cups I could drink as long as I have some kind of creamer to put in them. Because normal coffee, I make Americanos, and I just drink those black. But K-cups are on the vile side, I believe. And
you add creamer.
You get flavored ones, you get creamer. So I use the Silk almond milk creamers, right? And we have a water cooler upstairs, and we have one downstairs. I was keeping the creamer in the little mini fridge in the water cooler because it was perfect, like just to get in there. And it disappeared. Like, it was over half full, and it just disappeared one day. I'm like, what the hell happened to it? And I thought maybe Jackson used it and brought it downstairs. We found it in the children's room, in the toy box, empty. And
they were in there drinking it?
Ruby, my youngest, was drinking creamer.
Griffin would do the same thing.
And we found, with further investigation, I found an older one there, also empty with the lid off of it.
Oh, this is not the first time
No. So she's discovered the deliciousness of coffee creamer. Can you imagine drinking flavored, sweetened coffee creamer?
No.
If I put 2 drops too much in my coffee, I have to add more coffee to it because it's disgusting.
Griffin always he would steal coffee creamer for his cereal.
Oh, yeah.
He loved it in cereal, and you'd have it, and you're like, where is it? And then you're like, oh, Griffin.
Gross. I just don't get it. So, yeah, Ruby, after that, feel free to edit that down if you need to. Because where it's late at night, it's 9:00, and we're both kind of punch drunk a little bit. I'm tired. I had a long week, and so's Colleen, and Colleen's definitely done more than me this week, but I'm used to not doing anything. And this week, I started driving last week, but this week was the first week that I actually drove myself to work. And I also added an extra day at work. So this week I worked 3 days, and I drove myself, So my ankle is not happy with me.
I know.
This is the most annoying thing. Is like I do feel like I'm progressing, but it's so slow. Like
it takes a long time. You gotta.
I know, and my physical therapist told me I am.
Grace.
Yeah, and my physical therapist told me I'm doing amazing. He said that he's seeing like 2 or 3 other people who broke their ankle in a similar way that I broke mine, and we all did it around the same time. So he's like,
"What the hell is going on in the planets?"
I don't know. And he's like, "You're way ahead of them." And he's like, "Oh, you're doing really good." I go, "Am I doing better than everyone else?" He goes, "Well, it's not a competition." I go, "It absolutely is a competition." He goes, "Yes, Margaret, you're way ahead of them."
You're like, "Don't tell me about it if you don't want me
right.
to
compete." I go, "Don't tell me there are other people with the same thing and then not tell me I'm doing better than them or worse. Right. I need to know how well I'm doing. Am I doing enough?
I am in comparison with these other people."
And I'm always nervous I'm doing too much. And that's what Ruben is like, yells at me because he's like, "You're doing too much. You got to slow down."
Right. Because you have to prove yourself again.
No, I don't want to. I feel like I backtracked. Like this week, I had to cancel one of my physical therapy appointments just because I physically could do it. Like, I'm like, I'll go there, but I'm not able to do much. Like, right. I already was hurting beforehand, and it's like I just rescheduled. So, anyway, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know. My brain's mush right now. It's just the end of the year rush at work, and I just can't even think straight. And I don't know. I just straight out recently, and I have a mushy brain. So if I seem out of it, it's because my brain is complete mush from being too busy. So
mine's mushy just because I'm tired, exhausted.
I'm tired too, but we're gonna get through this. We
are. Okay, so today I'm going back in time, antiquity time.
Ooh.
And we're going back to one of my favorite places of antiquity, Egypt.
Of course, you love Egypt.
My most favorite place. And I'm talking today about Pharos, the mysterious Lighthouse of Alexandria.
Ooh.
And the name Pharos came to mean lighthouse. So, like, saying the Pharos lighthouse is redundant because Pharos
is a lighthouse.
Became, like, and a lot of, like, words from, like, Latin and Greek, and they all have the meaning for lighthouse stems from this word Pharos. So, yeah. This was considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's number 7.
Cool.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
And its construction started during the reign of Ptolemy I. This was during the Hellenistic, they call it the Hellenistic period. And the Ptolemaic, it's also called the Ptolemaic Kingdom. It was founded in 305 BCE. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it started with Ptolemy I's reign, and it lasted around 300 years, and it ended with the death of Cleopatra VII. So she was descendant of Ptolemy. So think of Ptolemy I. He was a Macedonian Greek general to Alexander the Great. So when Alexander the Great died, Ptolemy I stepped in and became pharaoh. So he was not Egyptian. He was Greek, Macedonian. So like Cleopatra wasn't Egyptian either, even though she was the last pharaoh of Egypt.
Right.
So like, but it's, yep. And it all started with Alexander the Great, and then Ptolemy was next. And then this lighthouse was like Ptolemy I started building this lighthouse, but he died, and his son, Ptolemy II, because, you know, they're real creative. They have lots of imagination that came with names. He completed this in 280 BCE. So it took quite a few years. Pharos was actually the island that the lighthouse was built on was called Pharos. Pharos, just in case you're wondering. It's found almost like Pharaoh, but without the H. So it's, gotcha. I think it's pronounced differently. I think I'm saying Pharos, so it's not confusing, but it might actually be Pharos. I don't, you know, we'll say Pharos just to make it not confusing to everybody listening. But it was a small island found on the western edge of the Nile Delta, and it was on the isthmus opposite of the island is where Alexander the Great built the great city of Alexandria. So this is right outside Alexandria, the city.
Okay.
It's the second largest city in Egypt, and it's the largest city on the Mediterranean coast. So this is right now, anyway. A mole, which isn't a mole or a mole in the ground. It's a stone structure or pier.
I love that you pointed it to your face like everyone could see.
Yeah, not like a mole.
On your face.
But they built a mole. It was like built to connect the city to this island, and it was 0.75 miles long. So that's a ways to build like a stone. It's not a bridge. It actually went in the water. Like they basically went to the edge of the water and kept putting stones in it till it came above. Think about it in that.
Water.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't imagine the amount of resources it took just to build this mole or mole, or probably not mole. That's like mole. The lighthouse was built by Sostratus of Cnidus. Cnidus. This is according to Pliny the Elder.
Oh Jesus! Here he comes again, always showing up.
Yeah. He said that it was, and there's a lot of conjecture as to who actually built it, but they're pretty sure that this man is the actual one who was the architect of the lighthouse. And there used to be a plaque on the front of the lighthouse that said Ptolemy I or the second. I don't remember. It said Ptolemy on it because he didn't want anyone else's name on it but his. But this architect being savvy and sneaky, he underneath this plaque, he made it of plaster. He put a plaque that had his name on it so that over time the plaster broke and crumbled away, and then it was left with his name underneath that he carved into the stone. I think that's great. When it was finished in 280 BCE, it was, they said, between 338 to 387 feet high. And there's a little bit, like most people say 350 feet because it's usually this lighthouse is no longer standing, just in case you were wondering. But all the reports of people that wrote about it, that saw it, it only varied in the size at about 15% either way. So it probably was very tall. And honestly, this would be between 30 and 40 stories tall.
What?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
The only structures that were as tall as this building at this time in the whole world were the Great Pyramids at Giza. And they were pyramids. Wow. This is a lighthouse.
Straight up.
Yeah. It was built they said it was built of sandstone and limestone. Some people say it was marble and granite, but I believe sandstone and limestone because that's what was around there.
Right.
And it was built in 3 stages. So it had like 3 sections to the lighthouse. They all sloped inward. So think like how a pyramid is wide and it gets narrow. Each stage kind of tapered a little bit towards the top. And I think it was to keep it more stable. That makes sense?
Yep.
So the bottom stage was square, and the second was an octagon shape, and the third on the top was a cylinder. And it said there was a spiral ramp that led to the top. There are descriptions of it having a statue at the very top of on top of the cylinder. There's a statue, a huge statue. Some say it was a statue of Alexander. Later, people said it was a statue of Poseidon, the god of the sea. So, I mean, there's a lot of it could have been Alexander, and then after a little while, they tore him down and put somebody else up. It's quite possible,
Right.
The earliest it was placed on the list of wonders was the 6th century BCE. The 6th century Common Era is the first time we see it listed as one of the 7 wonders. But people knew of it before that, but that's the first written record of it being on the list. They said that I forgot a part. Mirrors and possibly prismatic lenses were inside the the lighthouse to reflect and concentrate the light from the sun or fire at night, and the light would be seen. They said it was over up to 80 kilometers away. You could see the light from this, which is quite a ways away. And if you think about, this is not a light bulb. This is a flame reflected off of, like, it could be a mirror that was polished brass. It could have been some kind of lens that they figured out how to make. I should know, this is the tallest, to my knowledge, lighthouse ever built. Even now, I did a Google search for the tallest lighthouse for Common Era, like right now, and found and this is French, so I really apologize if anybody out there speaks French, because I don't, and I'm going to murder this, but the Ine Vienne Lighthouse is 271 feet tall, and all the ones that I found were all under that. And this one was 350 feet. There's a huge difference. There are no lighthouses even close to as tall as this one was.
And why would they need to be that tall? You know
I don't know. Well, this one, because it was, like, Alexandria was a huge port. Like, and they did a lot of trade, and trade went down the Nile, or technically up the Nile, because this was the delta, and they were going against the current to go up to, like, Giza or wherever. But it was the Mediterranean. It was a hub. Alexander the Great was there. They had that huge library that ended up in the Mediterranean Sea. But they did a lot of trade, and I don't know, they just wanted to make sure there was a lot of shallows, and ships would get beached, and they would, like, just get damaged because of how the water was at the end of the Nile.
Yeah.
And so this lighthouse needed to be seen from very far away. A visitor to the lighthouse in the year 1154 CE, so we're back in Common Era now, stated that, like, all the accounts that people have of this lighthouse were written accounts of people that went and visited and went back home, for the most part. It was stated that in the rectangular shaft, there were openings in the walls that had been filled with lead. And this was like the base, the rectangular base part. He said when he went in there, he saw these holes that had lead in them. And it was probably done to support the base as, like, a stability thing.
Right.
And there was an account from 1166 that was one of the most fullest descriptions of this monument that they have found. And I did not write the guy's name down because he seriously had 8 names, and I couldn't pronounce hardly any of them. So they did not get written down. I'm sorry. The inner ramp had there was a long ramp that went up to the monument, right? And then the inner ramp had a roof that was 6.2 feet high, which would fit 2 horsemen side by side. So people could ride their horses 2 by 2, basically, up into this monument and up to the top. Like, you could, because,
ride a horse.
Who wants to walk? You could just have a horse carry you. God forbid you walk.
350 feet tall. I don't want to walk up it.
Right. And it rotated clockwise, and it rose 4 stories, this ramp. And there are rooms on the 2nd through the 4th floors. And the second story had 18 rooms, and the 3rd had 14, and the 4th floor had 17 rooms. So, like, this thing was huge.
Yeah.
The lighthouse base was 100 feet wide per side. So it's 100 feet by 100 feet by 100 feet, which is a third of its height, almost.
Wow.
It had a connecting ramp that went up the mole I was talking about. Yeah, and this ramp was 984 feet long and 32 feet wide. So that's a ramp. That's a very long.
That is
quite a ramp. He said the 3rd section, the cylindrical section, had a diameter of 28.5 feet. So, like, it just was big, and then it got a little smaller, and then it was smaller. The Pharos Lighthouse was located only 350 feet and I'm sorry, 350 and 520 kilometers from two different tectonic boundaries, the African Arabian one and the Red Sea Rift. So where this area of the world is, it's really near two different tectonic plates, which we all know what happens with tectonic plates when they move.
Yeah.
We get earthquakes, right? So there were a couple of big earthquakes. There was one in 796 and one in 951 that damaged and cracked the lighthouse. So some of the drawings of it shows a crack in the side. And so it was definitely damaged during these two earthquakes, but it still was standing. And another one hit in 956 that caused structural collapse of the top 20 meters of the lighthouse. So in 956, an earthquake happens, and the top of this lighthouse basically collapses and it's gone. In the year...
What year was that?
This was 956.
Okay.
All right. Repairs were made, and an Islamic-style dome was installed at the top. So it changed from a lighthouse to something that had a dome top, more like a mosque, you know?
Right.
And in 1303, an earthquake estimated at an intensity of 8+ on the Richter scale, so it was a big one. It originated from Crete, they believe, was basically destroyed this lighthouse. It collapsed. There was not much left. It was just a pile. And in the year 1480, so it collapsed in 1303, and then in 1480, the Sultan of Egypt, Qaitbay, which is Qaitbay, he built a medieval fort on the platform from the rubble using a lot of the big main, like the foundation stones to build this medieval fort there. So that fort is still there.
Okay.
So on the spot where the lighthouse used to be. So the lighthouse remains were discovered in 1968 by a marine archaeologist called Honor Frost. Her team did dives in this area and found bits of this monument. They found some statuary and some large stones, and they're like, this had to be part of this lighthouse that used to be here that was one of the 7 wonders of the world that nobody's ever seen in modern day, right? Okay, so now I'm going on to some of the myth and lore surrounding the lighthouse.
Fun.
So sometime between 705 and 715, the Byzantines sent a eunuch. Supposedly, this is their story. They sent a eunuch to convert to Islam and gain the trust of the current caliph. This guy's name, I wrote down, Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan. This is this guy's name. Okay. So
that's a name. That's a big name.
The Byzantines are trying to, because they're always at war, you know, they're fighting with the Egyptians, and they're like, okay, we're going to send this eunuch. It's always a eunuch, isn't it? To go and like infiltrate. He's gonna convert to Islam, and he's gonna befriend the caliph.
How many eunuchs are there?
Nowadays, probably not too many. And he convinced the caliph that there was treasure hidden in the base of the structure, and he was granted permission to search it. It was then that he used his time to sabotage the foundations, which caused the later collapse.
Oh.
Yeah, he did it. This is one of the folkloric stories behind it. I doubt that happened. I think it was just a huge earthquake.
That makes more
How's
sense.
one guy going to damage the base of this huge structure by himself? Like, seriously.
And it's been standing this long. If it was going to fall, it would have fallen on its own.
Right. Some myths regarding the lighthouse were that the light could be seen on the opposite shore of the Mediterranean Sea, but this is impossible due to the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah. Well, unless you're a flat earther, you might think that's true.
Right. For sure. Another was that the beam of light that was reflected could be aimed at enemy ships in the harbor and set them on fire. Like, you know, if you take a magnifying glass.
Like a magnifying glass. Okay.
Kind of, yeah. They're like, this lens was so powerful that they could take rays of the sun and aim them at ships, and the ship's sails and the ships themselves would catch on fire.
I don't think that happened.
I don't think so, too. So in 1994, the archaeologist by the name, he's French, Jean-Yves Empereur. His last name is it's like Emperor, but it's spelled weird. It's Empereur. How would you pronounce that?
Mark, I can't pronounce normal words.
I can't pronounce my language. Right. He was doing underwater mapping of archaeological finds at the behest of the Egyptian government, because they had a big plan to build like a breakwater wall in the bay to help with like flooding or whatever. This archaeologist discovered hundreds of giant masonry blocks believed to be from this lighthouse and statuary, including a giant statue believed to be that of Ptolemy II. And it should be noted that a matching statue of his wife, Arsinoe, in the form of Isis, was found in 1964, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they think that these two statues were in the front of the lighthouse, like in the entrance, like marking the entrance, like one on each side, which is kind of cool to think about. Like these cool statues. It's cool that they found them both too. Like they've been under the water for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, like for 1,000 years at least. And the fact that they like found them both, it's just nuts. I sent a lot of pictures.
Figure out what it was.
Right. And upon his discoveries, the Egyptians decided to forego the breakwater project and instead planned on an underwater museum park where people could explore the ruins where they lie. So basically they turned it into an underwater like museum where people can go diving into the remains of this fallen lighthouse, which is really cool. Like they could have pulled them up, but they're covered with like coral and all these other things. But you can like go there and dive through like the statues and stuff that are down there.
Oh, that's really cool.
I thought that was pretty neat.
I mean, being underwater like that horrifies me, so you won't catch me doing it, but the idea is cool.
I don't think it's that deep. I think this area, because it's at the Nile Delta, like it gets a lot of sand and sediment in there, and I don't think the water is all that deep in areas. But I did share a lot of pictures that were taken in 94 from like of them taking pictures like of cool statues that are sitting on the bottom of the sea. It's really neat. And then there's also CG like representation of what the lighthouse looked like at the time. And then I also linked you a video. It's like a really short video, but it's kind of shows you what it kind of looked like at the like back then, and it's a little
cool.
That was neat. That's it. It was short. But it was good that it was short because I don't think the two of us had the mental capacity to do anything much.
Oh, goodness gracious. We're fine. We're fine. We're tired, but we're fine. We made it. I just want to know why they built it so tall.
Because it was Egypt and they built shit, and the Greeks. You know what I mean? It was like, this was the time of monuments. Like,
we're just gonna build.
Why did they do it? To see that they could.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was men, and it was a lighthouse, so the big phallic symbol straight up in the air. Gotta make it as big as you can.
There you go. That kind of explains it, doesn't it?
It was like new.
It's like a skyscraper, the first skyscraper almost.
It really was 40 stories tall.
That's tall.
30, 40 stories tall, depending on how big your story is. What was that?
It's bigger than the state office building.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about something that's that mammoth being built with simple tools and chisels.
Yeah.
And pulleys and ropes. That's it. There was no cranes, gas-powered cranes or chains or any of that. It was all
literal manpower.
Literally built by hand. With hands.
Yeah, it's crazy. That kind of stuff blows my mind because I can't even, balance some stones on top of each other without
I know.
I can't do that kind of stuff. I'm not gifted in that way. So very good, Margaret. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
So
I said I wasn't sure how weird it was, but I was interested. So
well, it's a wonder of the world. So it's wonderful and weird, and I like it. Speaking of weird, you want to see us record live, you want to make sure you save the date for AnchorCon, the 19th and 20th of August this year. I'll be in Clayton, New York. We'll be there both days with a table, so you can come and meet us. We'll have some stuff for sale. But we're going to record live one of the days. And once we find out when it is, which I emailed them, I wonder if they emailed me back. Let me look. Let's look right now. I emailed them today just asking if they knew, because I've had people ask. Oh, they said they don't have it set up yet, but if we had a preference, just to let them know. I don't think we care, do we?
I don't know. I know we recorded Saturday last year.
Yeah. Either way, we're going to be there. Watch our Facebook or Instagram because we're going to post on there. But you want to follow us there because we share pictures from our episodes on there. And then you can share our episodes with your friends through your social media, because especially on Facebook, our episodes automatically upload the link so you can listen to it there anytime you want.
And if you'd like to reach out to us, you can either send us a direct message through Instagram or Facebook, or you can send us an email at thecousinsweird@gmail.com. We would love to hear any of your spooky stories, any kind of weird things that have happened to you, even anything strange that's happened to you at like the Dollar Tree or something.
Which could be spooky, weird, scary.
Or just really funny and frightening at the same time.
Yeah.
It tends to be what happens to me at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah. And do you want to support us? Share our podcast with your friends. Word of mouth. Tell them about The Cousins Weird. But you can support us through Patreon by patreon.com/thecousinsweird for $1 a month. Become a freaky friend, and you get a free sticker and bonus episodes. And then for $5 a month, you're a terrible trender, and you get the same thing. We also get ad-free episodes a month, yearly gift, and a monthly chat with us. Monthly chat with us, which we'll be setting up May's chat through Skype. So if you're on the Patreon, just look out for that, because we'll set that date up with you there. And our new stickers should be in soon. Can't wait.
I'm excited.
Send out to our Patreons.
Did you get both or just the one?
Just the one.
Okay.
For the new one, and then
I
should have did both. I don't know why I didn't order both. That was stupid.
It's okay.
I didn't.
Well, we're gonna probably need to order some for AnchorCon anyway, right?
Yeah, we'll put a new order in. But we are supporting a person on Etsy who makes stickers, and I'd rather support a small little independently run place than a big place. So I'm tired and can't speak words. I think that's all.
All right, stay freaky. Bye.